And welcome back one final time. Well, the national debate over energy policy has raged in Washington for years, and calls to end the dependence on foreign oil are intermittently fueled by disasters like the Valdez, which was, by the way, 1989, and last year's BP spill in the Gulf, of course. So in his State of the Union address, President Obama called for the U.S. to get 80% of its energy from so-called clean sources by 2035. Now, in the mix, he included wind, solar, clean coal, natural gas, and even nuclear. Yep, nuclear. So, support is actually growing for nuclear power, but while it sounds good in theory, siting a plant in someone's backyard is a whole different story. My next guest is not only pushing for nuclear power, he says he'd like to see a plant built in his district. He is Congressman Chris Gibson, and he's the representative from New York's 20th District, which covers the eastern portion of the state stretching from Lake Placid to Dutchess County. Congressman, thanks for joining me.
Liz, it's great to be with you again.
It is good to see you. So that is quite an idea of yours, to put a nuclear plant. We actually have a nuclear plant, Indian Point, and it's quite controversial, and people are clamoring to close it. So where do you think you might put? In a perfect world, you can't just drop a nuclear plant into the 20th. I understand that it's a very lengthy procedure.
Well, first, just some prefacing remarks to say that this is all part of a larger strategy for jobs. The number one issue for the country and for our area as well is to change the business environment so we can create jobs. For me, that means listening to small business owners and their employees. They talk about the impediments to growth: taxes, regulation, healthcare costs, and energy costs. This is where this comes in. If we can find a way to drive down energy costs, that's more profitability for small business. That means recapitalization. That means expanding and hiring new workers. And that means for all of us, American families, that means we're paying less for energy.
Sure.
So with regard to energy plan, you ask about energy. I'm for an all-of-the-above energy strategy. That means renewables. That means the solar, and I've done events in the past to highlight and to showcase what can be done there with investment tax credits and a loan. Wind, and we've got some areas in the district where wind is advantageous. That means hydroelectricity. We produce more hydroelectricity here in New York than any other state east of the Rocky, and we're capable of more. That means responsible natural gas exploration, and I look forward to the coming year to seeing the Cuomo administration bring to closure the permitting process so we can get access to the shale gas in a manner that does not harm the water supply.
But wait, just to be clear, you are in favor of hydrofracking, or you are not in favor of hydrofracking?
I'm in favor of coming to closure with the permitting process that allows us to get access to the shale gas in a manner that does not harm the water supply. I believe we can do that, and I believe that they'll find a way to do that in a way that is responsible. But see, I'm setting you up for that we need access for a significant amount of new energy. We already consume 25% of the globe's energy. And we're not talking about standing still, we're talking about growing. And if we're talking about hybrid electric cars, we're going to need access to significant amount of new energy. That's why I also support safe, abundant, and clean nuclear power.
Okay, but Congressman, if I may, when people are saying to you, when small businesses are saying, Congressman, I am hurting, my energy bill's too high, do they then say, you know what I really think is going to work? A nuclear plant. We should put one in the 20th District. That's what we should do.
Well, what they say is that they'd like to pay less for energy,
well, of course
just like
they
farms.
Would. Sure.
But that's why we need a plan. And we've been talking about getting off foreign oil since the Nixon administration with no progress. And I will tell you that what we've got to do is aggressively implement, not talk about, but implement an all-the-above energy strategy. I was very excited to see the President once again, for a second year running, talk about an all-the-above energy strategy, including nuclear power. Nuclear power is safe, it's abundant, it's clean. 1K megawatt plant, it can produce energy for hundreds of thousands of homes.
Would you feel comfortable if it was in your town?
Yes.
If
yes,
it was
it is
next
safe.
Door to your house?
Yes.
You would feel totally comfortable.
Yes,
and you would raise your kids there and everything
Absolutely.
would be fine. Okay. Because I think that many people are very frightened of nuclear power. Now, it might be because they don't understand it. I would profess to not understand it. I don't think want to live next door to a nuclear plant. It would make me scared.
Here's what I'm finding, Liz, is the more that that people are open to the education to learn about the advances in technologies for nuclear power, the more comfortable they feel. This is not your father's nuclear power plant that we're talking about building. This is a 21st century, state-of-the-art incorporation of all the breakthroughs in research and development. We've got nanotechnologies right here in the Albany area. We've got RPI with some incredible minds there. We've got reprocessing technologies and breakthroughs from overseas that we can bring to bear into this, and that's what we're talking about doing. For those that are concerned about safety, so am I. And what I'm saying is for the plants that are aging now, we absolutely need to make sure we take the retrofits that are necessary so that those plants continue to operate safely. Going forward, we know that even with the very positive and strong safety record that we have with nuclear power, we can even make it better.
You know, for all of the talk about this and the incentivizing, it's a very expensive option in terms of building a plant. And I don't believe that I've seen very many new nuclear plants being built anywhere in the nation. Are you moving forward with some kind of, are you going to have town hearings about this? Or is it just, you're saying we should be open to the concept? I mean, how serious of a proposal is this?
I believe we can get this done. Let's talk a little bit about the cost. A plant can cost $4 to $6 billion. Remember that the preponderance of that is private sector investment.
But there aren't any being built right now.
There are 30 proposals that are already been put forward, and I would tell you that we are building a plant right now in Georgia for 2 reactors down there, and this was provided. The President has shown some leadership on this and the loan guarantees, because when you look at profitability for private sector, there's some things to consider. First of all, the cost of operating a nuclear power plant has been declining, And the life cycle, the lifespan of these plants has been extending. So most recently, you see from 40 to 60 years now for the aging plants. So with the new plant, who knows, 60, 80 years possibly? So when you look at the business plan for a private sector company, you can see that there is potential for profit of moving in this direction. Where the American people come in, the 2005 Energy Act provides for investment tax credits, it provides for loan guarantees, and it provides for insurance against regulatory delays. These things help put it in full view so that we can have private sector companies that are ready to come forward with this kind of investment that's going to help drive down energy costs, give us access to enormous amounts of energy that are going to help power this economy and get us back to work.
I want to just briefly talk to you about, unfortunately we're going to run out of time, but I want to talk to you about the efforts by your party in the House to cut spending. There's $32 billion is what you're proposing through the end of the fiscal year. The House Republicans, that's a lot shorter than the $100 billion that John Boehner said he would like to see. I mean, how is that discrepancy going to be made up eventually?
Well, first of all, Liz, I would tell you that it's not a Republican issue and it's not a Democratic issue. This is an American issue. When you look at the deficit, $1.5 trillion deficit last year, over $14 trillion debt. You look at Governor Cuomo showing leadership here in New York State. This is so. I would tell you that first of all, we all American people have to come to terms with the fact that
$32 billion and $1.3 trillion are two numbers that are very, very far apart.
Well, also, let me tell you about how I think we ought to proceed. The first step towards a balanced budget is to grow the private sector economy, because you're never going to balance the budget at 10% unemployment. You're paying out social services and unemployment, and you're not gaining tax receipts. That's why you see me constantly saying that the job one is creating jobs. The second step is to roll back to 2008 spending levels. I voted for that. I think it's the right move to do. It's the last time that our spending was 20% or less of the gross domestic product, which economists will tell you is about where we've been when we've been in healthier days. So that's why I voted for the 2008, which is pre-TARP and pre-stimulus levels. I think the third step is to take a hard look at consolidating the federal government. Our government has grown too big over time. It consumes too much money in operating costs and in personnel costs, and quite frankly, it steps on our freedoms. I think we can achieve savings there by consolidating the federal government, and we can have a more effective and efficient government and one that protects freedoms.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but I would like to have you back because we also need to talk about health care at some point, and we weren't able to get there this time. I want to thank you in the meantime, Congressman Gibson. It's always good to see you.
Well, I'll look forward to coming back, and can't wait to talk to you about that topic as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is unfortunately all the time we have for our show tonight, but just one reminder, you can catch up on state political news, all that you could ever want, any time of the day or night, by heading to our blog, The State of Politics. That's where we post the interviews from this show, and we also keep you up to date on all of the latest news. You can, of course, find that at capitaltonight.com. And that is our show for tonight. Have a super weekend. Be well, and we'll see you back here on Monday.